97 years of love on earth. 97 years of infinite inspiration. 97 years of love shower. 97 years of pure love.
गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणस्पत आनः शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती धीनामवित्रयवतो गणेशाय नमः सरस्वत्यै नमः श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम् ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः स्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नष्टार्क्ष्यो अरिष्ठनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्ददातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ नमस्ते गणपतये त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं तत्त्वमसि त्वमेव केवलं कर्तासि त्वमेव केवलं धर्तासि त्वमेव केवलं हर्तासि त्वमेव सर्वं खल्विदं ब्रह्मासि त्वं साक्षादात्मासि नित्यं ऋतं वच्मि सत्यं वच्मि अवत्वं माम् अववक्तारम् अवश्रोतारम् अवदातारम् अवधातारम् अवानुचानमवशिष्यम् अवपश्चातात् अवपुरस्तात् अवोत्तरातात् अवदक्षिणातात् अवचोर्ध्वातात् अवाधरातात् सर्वतो मां पाहि पाहि समन्तात् त्वं वाङ्मयस्त्वं चिन्मयः त्वमानन्दमयस्त्वं ब्रह्ममयः त्वं सच्चिदानन्दाद्वितीयोऽसि त्वं प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वं ज्ञानमयो विज्ञानमयोऽसि सर्वं जगदिदं त्वत्तो जायते सर्वं जगदिदं त्वत्तस्तिष्ठति सर्वं जगदिदं त्वयि लयमेष्यति सर्वं जगदिदं त्वयि प्रद्येति त्वं भूमिरापो नलो निलो नभः त्वं चत्वारि वाक्पदानि त्वं गुणत्रयातीतः त्वम् अवस्थात्रयातीतः त्वं देहत्रयातीतः त्वं कालत्रयातीतः त्वं मूलाधारस्थितोऽसि नित्यं त्वं शक्तित्रयात्मकः त्वां योगिनो ध्यायन्ति नित्यं त्वं ब्रह्मास्त्वं विष्णुस्त्वं रुद्रस्त्वमिन्द्रस्त्वमग्निस्त्वं वायुस्त्वं सूर्यस्त्वं चन्द्रमास्त्वं ब्रह्मभूर्भुवस्वरों गणादीं पूर्वमुच्चार्य वर्णादींस्तदनन्तरम् अनुस्वारपरतरः अर्धेन्दुरसितं तारेण रुद्धम् एतत्तव मनुस्वरूपम् गकारः पूर्वरूपम् अकारो मध्यमरूपम् अनुस्वारश्चान्त्यरूपम् बिन्दुरुत्तररूपम् नादः सन्धानम् सगुंहिता सन्धिः सैषा गणेश विद्या गणकऋषिः निश्चिद्गायत्री छन्दः गणपतिर्देवता ॐ गं गणपतये नमः एकदन्ताय विद्महे वक्रतुण्डाय धीमहि तन्नो दन्तिः प्रचोदयात् एकदन्तं चतुर्हस्तं पाशमङ्कुशधारिणं रथं च वरदं हस्तैर्बिभ्राणं मूषकध्वजं रक्तं लम्बोदरं शूर्पकर्णकं रक्तवाससं रक्तगन्धानुलिप्ताङ्गं रक्तपुष्पैः सुपूजितं भक्तानुकम्पिनं देवं जगत्कारणमच्युतम् आविर्भूतं सृष्ट्यादौ प्रकृतेः पुरुषात् परम् एवं ध्यायति यो नित्यं स योगी योगिनां वरः नमो व्रातपतये नमो गणपतये नमः प्रमथपतये नमस्ते अस्तु लम्बोदराय एकदन्ताय विघ्ननाशिने शिवसुताय वरदमूर्तये नमः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ अत्रिणात्वा क्रिमे हन्मि कण्ठेन जमदग्निना विश्वावसो ब्रह्मणा हतः कृमीनागुं राजा अप्येषागस्थपतिर्हतः अथो मातातो पिता अथो स्थूरा अथो क्षुद्राः अथो कृष्णा अथो श्वेताः अथो आशातिका हताः श्वेताभिः सह सर्वे हताः आहरावद्या श्रुतस्य हविषो यथा तत्सत्यं यदमुय्यमस्य जम्भयो आददामि तथा हि तथ खण्फण्म्रसि ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः नमो तस्सा भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्सा बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि शरणं गच्छामि अशीवभो वहिष्ठेमस्ति उष्टास्ति उष्टाः घपशात् वहिष्ठात् Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Saishwaraya vidmahe satyadevaya dhimahi tanna sarva prachodayat.
सत्य साई गणनाथ गजानन सा सत्य साई गणनाथ गजानन री 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 शुभ मंगल चरणा री 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 शुभ मंगल चरणा गा गा गणपति गणेश गौरी नंदन गा गा गणपति गणेश गौरी नंदन मा मा मातंग वदना मूषिक वाहन मा मा मातंग वदना मूषिक वाहन पा पा पाशाकुशधर प्रथम वंदना पा पा पाशाकुशधर प्रथम वंदना धा धा ध्यान करो प्रभु विघ्न विनाशक धा धा ध्यान करो विघ्न विनाशकनी निखिलाधारा निगम संचारण निखिलाधारा निगम संचारण सत्य साई गणनाथ गजानन री 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 शुभ मंगल चरण गा गा गणपति गणेश गौरी नंदन मा मा मातंग वदना मूषिक वाहन पा पा पाशांकुशधर प्रथम वंदना धा धा ध्यान करो प्रभु विघ्न विनाशक नी नी निखिलाधारा निगम संचारण नी नी निखिलाधारा निगम संचारण
सत्य साई भगवानुनि भक्ति Sai Geetha, oh Geetha, Sai Geetha, Geetha, Sai Geetha, oh Geetha, Sai Geetha, Geetha, Sai Geetha, oh Geetha, Sai Geetha, Geetha, Sai Geetha, oh Geetha, Sai Geetha. Born in the wild, raised in Patti, this is the story of Sai Geetha. Gave her heart to Sathya Sai. She was his darling Sai Geetha. Follow us into the jungle, in the brush. Everyone's humbled, that's the story of Sai Geetha. Her world was so hidden behind us. How come she didn't come find us? This is the story of Geetha. Her discipline and devotion, one divine love, oh Sai Geetha. She sailed to the Lord across the ocean of sadness and Maya, oh Sai Geetha. Greater than a man could ever be, lesser a beast than ever was. She was the love that we seek. Let's follow her, Sai Geetha. Oh Geetha, Sai Geetha, oh Geetha, Sai Geetha. This is the story of Sai Geetha. Geetha, Sai Geetha, oh Geetha, Sai Geetha. This is the story of Sai Geetha. Follow us into the jungle, in the brush. Everyone's humble, let's see the story of Sai Geetha. Her world was so hidden behind us. How come she didn't come find us? Let's see the story of Geetha. Sairam everyone, welcome. Wishing everyone a very blessed Buddha Purnima. And today we're also celebrating the anniversary of Sai Geetha's Samadhi. For those of you who may not know, Sai Geetha was Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba's pet elephant from the early 50s all the way till 2007 when she breathed her last on May 22nd. And Swami had many times mentioned that Sai Geetha, though she was an elephant, was a Brahmagnani, that she had realized God because she was able to recognize the divinity that was in Bhagwan Baba. So on this occasion, we're very pleased to have someone join us all the way from Washington, D.C. Just to introduce Sister Vidya Ganesh. Vidya Ganesh is a fourth-generation Sai devotee born into Swami's fold. She currently serves as the young adult representative for the Loudon Sai Center in Virginia. Vidya completed her bachelor's in science and biomedical engineering at the University of Virginia. Vidya is a graduate of the Sathya International Youth Leadership Program, SSYILP, and has served on the SSC 4 to Young Adult Transition Subcommittee under the YA wing of the Sathya International Organization. Vidya loves to sing bhajans, learn new instruments, write poetry, drop some very timeless and comical puns. She loves elephants and hopes to one day meet and play with a baby elephant. A quick fun fact, Vidya was born during the global Akhanda Bhajans of 1994. So, without much further ado, would like to hand it off to Sister Vidya Ganesh. Sai Ram.
Om Shri Sai Ram. I offer my most loving salutations at the lotus feet of our beloved Bhagavan. And I sincerely pray that he speaks through me, he sings through me, he acts through me, and he feels through me. And I want to start today with a poem that Swami sent a few months ago on this beautiful devotee of his that we are celebrating today. Teach us your ways, O Sai Geetha, on how you became one of the greatest love stories of Sai Ma's saga. For you are not remembered today or tomorrow, but for eternity. Teach us your ways, O Sai Geetha, on how you were his blank slate, to be adorned with the purity of vibhuti, the beauty of unwavering faith, and the grace of divinity. Teach us your ways, my Sai Geetha, on how you found your way into Sai Ma's heart, the same heart that melted at the mere thought of you. He loved you more than love itself. Respected elders, brothers and sisters, and the little ones who have finally joined us here today, a loving and hearty Sairam to each and every one of you. I first want to thank Swami for the opportunity to speak about one of my most favorite and dearest devotees of Swami. And I also want to thank the Jersey City Sai Center for first of all giving me the opportunity to speak today on Sai Geetha Remembrance Day. And also wanted to thank them for accommodating me over video chat today. And given my name is Vidya, I guess it's safe to say that Swami readied me for this moment my entire life to have a video talk. Okay, I promise, all the puns are out of the way, no more. So when Brother Rishi reached out to me to address the gathering here today, I asked him, well, first of all, thank you so much. What exactly do you want me to talk about? And I thought that he may send me a question or two, and then what I got was a long list of questions and topics that made me feel like maybe I should have just kept quiet. No, I'm just kidding. Nevertheless, I want to share a little bit today about why Sai Geetha is so close to my heart. Why it's important that we are here talking about her. Why are we here celebrating her life? What is it that we can learn from her? And more importantly, how can we apply her teachings in our daily lives? And so as Swami was the one who named this precious little elephant as Sai Geetha, I wanted to take her name, Geetha, as the framework for us to explore this magnificent devotee. And so we're going to be taking each letter of her name, and I know there are several spellings to her name, so the way that I'm going to be spelling it is Geetha. And we're going to take each letter and explore together about what we can learn about her life. And for the SSC kids who are here today, there may or may not be a quiz at the end about what each of the letters stand for. I'm going to leave that up to the SSC gurus to decide. But for the rest of you, I just want you to sit back and enjoy as I take you on this journey of Sai Geetha and Swami and what exactly we can learn from their life. And I will try to share some of my own personal experiences along the way as well. So for those of you who don't know me as well, elephants are my favorite animal, and Sai Geetha is one of my most favorite and dearest devotees of Swami. I mean, logically, I guess it makes sense. Elephants are my favorite animal, Sai Geetha is an elephant. It does match up, right? But my heart truly bursts with joy every time I see a picture of her or a video of her or I get to hear a story about her. And to be honest, I don't think there's any really one reason why she is so close to my heart. And to say that there is one reason or 5 reasons or 10 reasons feels a little limiting. But I'm going to share today a little bit about her life. So we're going to start with the letter G. And G stands for Gift of God. G stands for Gift of God. So calling Sai Geetha Swami's pet elephant is a pretty severe understatement. She was one of Swami's most exemplar devotees. The story of Swami and Sai Geetha started back in 1962. When on a trip to the Mudumalai forest, Swami noticed a little baby elephant that was full of joy and full of happiness and love. And the forest rangers informed Swami that this baby elephant had lost her mother soon after she was given birth. The forest rangers offered the baby elephant to Swami, and soon arrangements were made to bring this little baby elephant to Parthi. And Swami lovingly named this elephant Sai Geetha. And this saga of love between Swami and Sai Geetha went on for over half a decade before she merged with the Lord in 2007. Now, my saga of love with Sai Geetha probably began around the time when I was in SSC and we were learning about her in SSC. But at that time, I was more enamored with the fact that Swami had a pet elephant. I mean, come on, a pet elephant? That's crazy. That empowers us SSC students to get pretty much anything under the roof. Think about it. If Swami has a pet elephant, we SSC kids could even settle for a pet horse, or a pet dog, or a cat, or a hamster, or if we really wanted to settle, we could even settle for a pet fish, right? Okay, well, Swami decided, let me get this girl a fish and I'll put an end to this story. So now, when I was in elementary school, there was a fall fair they used to host in my local neighborhood. And this fall fair had lots of games, lots of food, lots of music, lots of people, anything you typically see at a fair. And the fair had games, and oftentimes these games had prizes. And that year, one of the prizes for one of the games was a goldfish. That's right, a real-life goldfish. And the game was Wii fishing. Okay, so for some of our older, wiser devotees who are here today, and for some of the younger ones, because I don't really know if Wii is still a trendy game. Is that a game? I don't know. Let me explain a little bit about what exactly a Wii is and what exactly Wii fishing is. So a Wii is a game where you use a remote as a virtual instrument to play a game on the television. So think about it as if you were to play baseball, there would be a ball coming at you from the TV screen, and you could use your remote as a virtual instrument to play the game. So you could use the remote as a baseball bat, you could use it to play cricket, to play tennis, to play bowling, pretty much anything under the roof. Okay, so this game was Wii Fishing, which was using this remote as a virtual fishing pole, which was great because ahimsa, you're not actually hurting any fish, right? So the game was pretty simple. There was a TV screen with a pond full of fish, and there were big colorful fish, and there were small gray fish. And the point of the game was to catch as many big, colorful fish as you can while avoiding the little fish that cause you to lose points. And the player with the most number of points at the end of the game wins. Pretty simple, right? Okay, so the game was Wii Fishing, and the prize was a goldfish, a real-life goldfish. And oh man, that line was long. And you know how for the kids, a 20-minute line feels like it's 5 or 10 hours? That is what that felt like. But I was determined. I was determined to get my hands on one of those fish. Now, my mother was with me, but my poor mother, She didn't know what was going on. She thought I was just standing in line for another game, and she was off on the side, mingling with other people. But I knew what I was getting into. And so I stood in line, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and finally, my moment to shine came. And I was asked to stand in front of this TV, and I was handed this remote control, and I was faced to compete against another kid who was somewhat my age, and then the countdown began. 3, 2, 1. And I caught those digital fish like my life depended on it. With focus and precision, I made sure to catch the big fish and made sure to avoid the little fish. And at the end of the 30-second game, I saw the words that I had been waiting for my entire life. Player 2 is the winner. And with a light applause from the kids nearby and some of the volunteers, I was handed a plastic bag with a goldfish inside. Now, in the game of life, that was level 1. Level 2 was my mother standing nearby. And when she saw me happily waltzing over with this plastic bag, and more importantly, what was inside it, she said, "Oh no, you need to give that back." And I was really upset. I won that fish fair and square. I worked hard. I put my sweat and my tears and my heart into winning that fish. I was not ready to give it back. And so I refused, and I argued, and I reasoned, and I finally won that level 2. Now, there was only one level left, level 3, who was waiting at home, my father. And when my father saw me walking in with that plastic bag, and more importantly, what was inside that plastic bag, he said, "Oh no, what did you do? You need to let that go. We can't have that in this house. What are you going to do? Are you going to take care of it?" And so I was upset again. And so I refused, and I reasoned, and I argued, and I finally won that level 2, which was good because I really needed him to take me to the pet store to buy me some fish food. And I lovingly named this fish Geetha because I didn't really want to copy Swami with the Sai Geetha, change it up just a little bit. And I put Geetha in a large bowl of water. Now Geetha, the fish, was a pretty quiet roommate. She kept to herself, didn't talk much. She would make the occasional weird face every once in a while, but, she can do her thing. Now, what Geetha did not know was that she was about to be freed of this caged life very soon. So anyways, I took care of Geetha. Every morning, I would feed her, and every afternoon I came home from school, I would feed her, and I would sing her bhajans, and I would sing her Carnatic music, and I would tell her about what happened during my day. And I had dreams. I had dreams of taking Geetha on long walks on the beach. I had dreams about having deep conversations with her about life and about yogurt rice, because nothing is more important than discussing the correct ratio of yogurt to rice and yogurt rice. And I had dreams about growing old together with Geetha. Unfortunately, destiny had other plans. See, I didn't really know that fish needed to be kept in regulated tanks. By regulated tanks, I mean tanks that regulate the temperature of the water, the chlorine, the pH, and so on. And I didn't give this much importance. I didn't give this much thought. And every day, Geetha would swim a little bit closer to the bottom of the bowl. And I thought, she can do whatever she wants in there. It's her bowl. Until one day, she finally swam her last, and she attained moksha, liberation. Now, why am I narrating such a long story about a pet fish that I won at a wee fishing game named Geetha who attained liberation? See, I didn't really know what my pet fish needed. I didn't know what fish needed. I learned in school that fish logically they live in water and they need to be fed, and so that's what I gave her. But I didn't really know what she needed. And looking back on it, I'm not sure if I really took good care of her. But Swami took an elephant under his care, an elephant. And he took care of this elephant with so much accuracy, so much detail to make sure that she was always being well fed, to make sure that she was always being taken care of, that she was given the right accommodations. And in one instance, he even checked with her caretaker about whether she was getting sugarcane leaves to eat. Not because sugarcane leaves were essential for her survival, but because she loved sugarcane leaves, and sugarcane leaves were not easily obtainable in Parthi. Sai Geetha was a gift of God, and this is the way that Swami took care of her. And isn't this the way that he takes care of every student that comes into his institution? And if you really think about it, this is the way that he takes care of each and every one of us as well. So, for the SSC kids who are here today, who are maybe waiting to get pets, maybe pestering their parents about pets, maybe now they're thinking about pets, sorry parents, this would be a good time to take notes on how the Lord of the universe takes care of his pet elephant. Sai Geetha was truly a gift of God, a gift from God, and a gift for God. Okay, so now we are done with G. And G was for gift of God. Awesome. Okay, so this takes us to our first E. And this first E stands for everlasting love. Everlasting love for the Divine Mother. Now, as I said earlier, calling Sai Geetha as a pet is a pretty severe understatement. When Sai Geetha passed, Swami became very emotional. And in many other times talking about her, Swami would also become very emotional. A year after Sai Geetha merged with the Lord, Swami was addressing some of the students. And during that time, he clarified that the tears he had shed at the time of her passing were not tears of sorrow. They were not tears of sorrow, but rather an expression of vatsalya, or an expression of the love and affection that a mother feels towards her child. This was a confirmation that Sai Geetha was truly Swami's loving daughter. And even though she lost her physical mother when she was very young, so what? She got the love of the Divine Mother herself. Now I want you to think for a moment. Mother's Day having passed just a week ago, some of you may have given your mom a card, or a box of chocolates, or a bouquet of flowers, or a hug, or maybe some of you forgot that last Sunday was Mother's Day, and this is getting a little bit awkward. You made her feel like she was the queen that day, the queen. But what about the other 364 days of the year, or 365 days if we're talking about leap years? Do you give your mother the same love and affection every single other day? Do you give your mother the same love and affection that Sai Geetha gave her mother Sai? I mean, if you've ever seen a video of the way that Sai Geetha ran to Swami, she would run with so much happiness and so much joy every time she found out that Swami was somewhere in the vicinity. She always gave her mother Sai first priority over everything else in her life. How often do you keep your mother first in your life? Or how often do you even keep her second or third to everything else going on in your life? Because friends, if you keep the Divine Mother first, then she will answer every single one of your prayers. She will take care of every part of you. And she will not only answer those prayers that you are making, but she will also answer the prayers that are so silent that sometimes you don't even realize that you're praying. And I want to narrate a small personal experience here. So when I was about 10 years old, we went on a trip to India. And for some reason on this trip to India, I was very keen on getting an Om locket to wear. Just a chain with an Om on it, as you've probably seen people wear. That was it. That's all I wanted. And how many of you, when you go to India, have long shopping lists? And then you need to strategically allocate the space on the way back in your suitcases. And sometimes you need to prioritize things like that uncle, yeah, we can get him that this year, but that aunt, maybe we can get her next year. See, the only thing on my list was an Om locket. And I was determined to find this locket somewhere in India. And so every store, every ashram, every temple, every place that we went to, my eyes would search for an Om locket. And we found a couple, but I wasn't super happy with what I found. They were either too big or too small or too sparkly or not the right color. I just really wasn't happy with what I found. And so by the end of the trip, I felt a little sad. You know, as a 10-year-old, the one thing that I wanted was an Om locket, and I couldn't find that either. Now, towards the end of the trip, my family and I visited a Swami's devotee's home in Chennai. And this elderly lady devotee of Swami has converted half her house into a temple. And it's still there today. It's called, I believe, the Nagasai Temple in Chennai. And this house and this temple has been blessed 1,000 times over by Swami. Every picture, every idol, every column, every corner of that house and temple is outpouring with vibhuti, kumkum, chandan, turmeric, amritam, you name it, it is pouring from there. And there's sometimes materializations, and the vibrations in that place are awesome. They're amazing. And so we went to visit them. And as aunties and uncles typically ask of small children, she had asked me to sing some bhajans. And so we had a nice small satsang, singing bhajans and sharing some Swami stories. And suddenly, the devotee got up and walked over to this giant Shirdi Baba statue that was there. And the Shirdi Baba statue had a sari draped over it, as you sometimes see in temples. And before we knew what was happening, the devotee or someone else said that sometimes there are things that materialize inside the sari. And before we could ask any additional questions, the devotee put her hand into one of the pleats of the sari and pulled out a fistful of lockets. And there happened to be the same number of lockets that materialized that day as the number of people who happened to be seated there that day. And so this auntie came by and randomly handed each one to one of us. And as you've probably guessed it by this point, the one that landed in my hand was the locket of an Om. It was amazing. This one thing that I had been praying for, I didn't even realize that I was praying for this entire trip, was now in my hand, materialized directly from the Lord. But if you remember, I did find Om lockets. I found them in the stores, I found them in the temples, but I just wasn't happy with what I found. This Om locket was perfect because when I turned the other side, there was a picture of Swami. It was perfect. It was more beautiful and more precious than I could have ever imagined or dreamed about. And to me, it felt like Swami answered this little girl's prayers, even though she didn't even realize what she was praying for. And it was an affirmation and a reminder that the Divine Mother will always answer your prayers, always. No matter how small they are, no matter how big they are, no matter how silent they are. But it's up to us to be patient. And it's up to us to wait for her to answer in the time and the method that she feels is best. That she feels is best for us to transform, to grow, to learn something from the experience, and to become closer to Swami. Everlasting love for the Divine Mother. And the Divine Mother will shower her everlasting love on you. And this was the life that Sai Geetha led. Okay, this takes us to our second E. Right? We did the first E, now here's the second E. The second E stands for endless devotion. Endless devotion for the Lord. And arguably, this is one of the most important lessons that we can learn from Sai Geetha's life. So for those of us who are going through SSC, have gone through SSC, are attending Sai Center, or have been part of Swami's fold, the path to love Swami and to be devoted to Swami is something that is handed to us on a silver platter. And what I mean by this is that we have study circles, we have bhajans, we have Swami's discourses readily available. We have books, more books than we know what to do with on our shelves. And we have SSC classes. The path to love Swami and to be devoted to Swami is something that is handed to us on a silver platter in a nice framework for us to follow every day in our lives. And yet we still struggle so much with being devoted to Swami at all times of our life, right? That little baby elephant was only 10 days old when she came to Swami. 10 days old. Could you imagine? No one taught her how to love Swami. No one put her through SSC. No one trained her. And yet she was the example of a perfect daughter, as we had just spoken about, and an example of the perfect devotee. Okay, so we may think, compared to an elephant, our lives are pretty complicated, right? We have school, we have work, we have so many difficulties, so many responsibilities. That is the reason why we can't be devoted to Swami the same way that an elephant can. An elephant's life is so simple. But that elephant also had its fair set of trials too, that not only tested its devotion, but gave us all an example to learn from. So in the early 80s, some of the forest rangers and ashram elders suggested to Swami that Sai Geetha was coming of age to be sent into the forest to mate with another elephant and to breed additional elephants. And so Swami was a little bit hesitant about this suggestion, but reluctantly he agreed. And so Sai Geetha was sent into the forest, and it was a 13-day trek to get to the forest. And there were two mahouts or caretakers who were with her, who later relayed to Swami what had transpired in that forest. They said that when Sai Geetha was taken into the forest, she did not mingle with a single male elephant, let alone even look at another male elephant. The caretakers seeing this got a little worried, so they tried placing some baby elephants around her, thinking that may spark some interest in starting a family. But when the caretakers weren't looking, she would quietly push the baby elephants away. And the amazing part is, in the middle of the night, her legs would be chained, because elephants' legs are often chained, right, as you've seen. And in the middle of the night, she would break her chains and damage her legs. And the caretakers would find her walking back on the road back to Parthi in the morning. This went on for close to 3 months. 3 months! Could you imagine the amount of agony and suffering that she must have gone through to want to break her chains and damage her legs like that, and want to just get back with her Swami? So at the end of the 3 months, the caretakers finally gave up. And they asked for Swami's permission for Sai Geetha to be brought back to Parthi. And Swami agreed, and Sai Geetha was brought back to Parthi. Now, the drama does not end there. It is just getting started. So a vet went to inspect Sai Geetha and came out with an announcement that Sai Geetha is pregnant. And the ashram was full of joy that there was soon to be a baby elephant joining their ashram, and Sai Geetha was about to become a mother. Now Swami, being our humorous Lord as he is, sometimes likes to add a little bit of ghee to the fire, so to say. So he asked for a fence to be built around Sai Geetha for her privacy and safety, even though Swami knew exactly what was going on. And there was even one point when he took Professor Kasturi along with him to Sai Geetha's shed and pointed to Sai Geetha's stomach and said, "Can you see the baby rolling around in her stomach? Can you see?" And finally, the countdown began, and 4 weeks became 1 week, and 1 week became 3 days, and 3 days became the final day, and the final day passed. And the vet went in to inspect Sai Geetha and came out with a sad face that Sai Geetha is not pregnant. Now Swami knew what was going on this entire time. He let this drama run its course. But the statement he made right at that moment is so profound, and it's something that we all need to absorb, and it's something that we all need to ruminate on. The statement that he made at the time is that Sai Geetha is a Shuddha Brahmacharini. She is pure, she is perfect, she is pristine. She is a perfect celibate. She has come only for me and will have nothing to do with anyone else, let alone another elephant. So what was the purpose of putting Sai Geetha through such an ordeal? I mean, as I said earlier, could you imagine how agonizing it must have been to be away from her Swami like that? It's a story of her purity, no doubt. But even more so, it signifies who she is and what she has come for. I mean, for a second, think about who she had in her life. She didn't have her physical parents. She didn't have any elephant friends growing up. And when the moment came for her to mate with another elephant, which is a very natural experience for animals, she denied that too. Because she only wanted her Swami. Swami was her primary relationship. And she knew that that was the relationship that would give her true happiness and peace in this world. Sai Geetha was truly the most exemplary devotee, pining and living only for the Lord. Another story is when Sai Geetha used to live in her first old tin shed. And the tin shed used to face in such a way that Sai Geetha could see Swami coming out for darshan. Now at one point, a new tin shed was to be constructed. And Swami supervised every detail of this construction as he normally does with most projects. Unknowingly, the engineer in charge made a small mistake and constructed the shed in such a way that there was a wall facing the south side. And this meant that based on the location of this new tin shed, Sai Geetha could not see Swami when he came out for darshan. And the engineer, he didn't know his mistake, but he soon found out when after putting Sai Geetha in that shed for a couple of hours, she ran the entire thing to dust. And the devotees thought, oh my God, this elephant has gone mad. She is angry. What's wrong with her? And Swami came by and he clarified and he said, no, she is just pining for me. She is pining for my darshan. Another very interesting and profound statement that Swami made on her devotion was when Swami often used to say that Sai Geetha, being an elephant or an animal, cannot express emotions the same way that you and I do. And so thinking back to our example about the sugarcane leaves, the sugarcane leaves were not essential for Sai Geetha's survival. And Sai Geetha was not able to express this, but Swami knew how much Sai Geetha loved sugarcane leaves. And so there was one day when Swami was driving back in his car, and he decided to get down on the side of the road. And on the side of the road, there were several students standing there, and among the students standing was Sai Geetha. And Sai Geetha, seeing her Lord, tears started rolling from her eyes. And as we were saying, elephants don't express emotions the same way that you and I do. She started urinating. Because this is something that elephants and animals commonly do when they get excited, is they start urinating. And so the students standing nearby saw this urine splashing onto the ground and they flinched and they moved back. And some of the drops of urine even fell onto Swami's robe. And so Swami went on, not giving this much importance. He interacted with all the students. He interacted with Sai Geetha. And as he was leaving, he made a very profound statement and turned to the students. And he said, if you drink a cup of her urine, you may get an iota of her devotion. And when Sai Geetha merged with the Lord, Swami kept repeating, "I've lost a great devotee. I will never find another devotee like her." If we can emulate even a small part of her devotion, then that will not only make Swami happy, but it'll also bring us closer to Swami. Sai Geetha had endless devotion for the Lord. Endless. Okay, that's enough talking about endless devotion. Let's move on to our next letter. And our next letter is T. And T is for truth. And what is the truth? The ultimate truth is what Swami has been telling us all along, that I am God and so are you. I had an interesting dream last year, and in this dream, someone had come up to me and asked me a question. They had asked me, how is Swami smiling all the time? And in my dream, my character responded by saying, because he knows he is God, but we don't know that we are God. How is Swami smiling all the time? Because he knows he is God, but we don't know that we are God. And in the morning, I woke up and I wrote down the dream. And then I checked what I ate the previous night because, that was a deep subconscious dream. And I thought that maybe if I ate that same thing again, I could get some of my other life questions answered as well. But it was true. Swami knows that he is God, but we don't know that we are God. And we go on singing this bhajan, I am God, I am God, I am no different from God. But do we truly believe it? Can we say with full certainty from the depths of our hearts that yes, I am God, 24/7, 365 days of the year, I am God and I am divine. Sai Geetha was living this truth, that every single one of us is divine. It didn't matter that she was an elephant. It didn't matter that she was not a human form. She did not let that delimit her divinity in any way. And the beautiful thing is, whenever we think of Sai Geetha, don't we always think of Swami? Sai Geetha was living the truth that each and every single one of us, each and every living being, everything in this world is God, and everything in this world is divine. Okay, this brings us to H, but let's review what we've got so far. So we had G for gift of God. We had E for elephant. No, I was just testing you guys. We had E for everlasting love. We had E for endless devotion. We had T for truth, and that brings us to H. And H stands for heart-to-heart connection. Heart-to-heart connection with the Lord 24/7. There was one moment when Swami came to the hostel to inaugurate a pond that the students and the boys had built in the hostel. And the boys had invited Swami, and Swami inaugurated the pond. And as he was leaving, he walked to the edge of the road. And on the other side of the road was Sai Geetha's shed. And waiting on the other side of the road was Sai Geetha, waiting patiently for her Lord. And Swami looked over at Sai Geetha and very lovingly and very quietly called out, "Geetha, Geetha." And instantly the gates flung open and Sai Geetha ran to her Lord. Now Swami had called out so quietly that even the boys nearby could barely hear Swami calling out her name. And yet her focus on Swami was so sharp that she could hear even the most quiet of calls from the Lord. Sai Geetha was always the first to sense when Swami was coming. And some of the students would even say that before the convoy that used to come with Swami, their signal that Swami was coming was Sai Geetha. Because her ears would perk up and she would perk up, and somehow she would know when Swami was coming. She also knew every time Swami was leaving as well. And she even knew when Swami wanted to leave his physical form and wanted to leave first. Sai Geetha was connected with the Lord in every fiber of her being. And Swami, or God, or Sai, or whatever you want to call it, is communicating with us at all times, through signs, through intuitions, through people, through guidance, through quotes that we sometimes see that really relate to us all of a sudden. Swami is always communicating with us, but it's up to us to develop that sort of heart-to-heart connection with the Lord and be able to feel Him in every fiber of our being. This is something that we need to learn from Sai Geetha, to be able to develop this heart-to-heart connection 24/7 with our Lord. Okay, and this finally brings us to our last letter, which is A. And A is for awareness. Huh? Why awareness? That's a weird note to end on, right? So when Swami sent me this idea for awareness, I was also a little bit confused at first. But then I realized that this awareness is less about Sai Geetha and less for Sai Geetha, and it's more for us. It's now time for us to develop the awareness, to transform, to change, to grow. See, we can go on talking about stories about Sai Geetha and stories about Swami and what we've learned from them. But it's time for us to now apply what we've learned. And we need to have awareness of where we are on our journey. We need to have awareness of where we need to go, what we need to do to mend our ways. Awareness of our true divinity, our true inner nature, and awareness of the truth that we are all God, that we are all divine. You know, if you didn't know that Sai Geetha was an elephant, or if I never told you, or no one ever told you that Sai Geetha was an elephant, would you think that she was really any different from another human devotee of Swami? So why an elephant? Why did Swami choose an elephant for us to emulate as a model devotee? Why not a perfect human devotee for us to follow? If Swami gave us a perfect human devotee to follow, wouldn't our mind naturally drift towards 100 different excuses? Excuses like, oh, she had it easy, or, you know, he had a job that allowed him to be that devoted to Swami, or he had a family that supported him and he was able to be devoted to Swami. We go on making excuses. But here is an elephant, an animal. And those 6 enemies that Swami always emphasizes how important it is for us to get rid of, here is an elephant, an animal with no animalistic qualities. Isn't that amazing? I gave you so many examples of all the things that Sai Geetha has done, and you could never think that she was really any different from another human devotee of Swami. She did not let her being an elephant limit her devotion in any way. She did not give any excuses to be fully devoted to Swami. And it's now important for us to stop making excuses. It's important for us to take the next step to transform. Because friends, the goal in this life is to merge with the Lord. The goal in this life is to realize that we are all divine. And the goal in this life is to merge with that divine mother. So what keeps us from getting there? This is all, great that Sai Geetha did all this. But what do we do now? What keeps us from getting there? What was it that Sai Geetha was able to overcome that we are having so much trouble with? We all have distractions, illusions, desires, endless desires, right? Attachments. And all of these things keep us from being with Swami and realizing that we are divine. And I'm reminded of a small story that my mother had actually shared with me recently. And the story goes something like this. There was once a small 8-year-old boy who had gone to the store with his mother. And as small children probably do, the kids here probably do, the small boy started bugging his mom to buy him things that he saw on the shelf. Pointing out to all the things on the shelves and saying, "Mommy, I want that. Can you buy me that? Can you buy me this? Can you buy me that?" And the mom kept refusing, saying, "No, I'm not going to buy you that." And the boy, being so enamored by all these toys and items on the shelves of the store that he could buy, he started wandering off. And eventually, he got separated from his mother, got lost, and when he wasn't able to locate his mother, he broke down and he started crying. A woman came up to him, seeing this little boy crying, and said, "Oh, beta, what's wrong?" And the boy, half crying, said, "I lost my mommy, I lost my mommy." And the woman said, "Don't worry, I will take you to find your mother." And so the woman took this boy by the hand and was walking around the store trying to find his mother. Now this boy, he was crying. He was bawling. He was crying at being separated from his mother. And so the woman, trying to pacify this child, started offering all the things he was asking his mother for just 5 minutes ago. The way that we try to pacify children, saying, "Can I get you this? Don't cry, I'll buy you this, I'll buy you that." But now the boy had a mind shift. And he refused everything. He said, No, I don't want any of this. I want my mommy. I don't want any of this. And so this went on until this boy was finally reunited with his mother. We are all this little child. We are all this little child distracted by all the desires and illusions and attachments that line the shelves of our life. And all of these things cause us to forget about our Divine Mother. They cause us to be separated by the Divine Mother, from the Divine Mother, as that little boy was separated from his mother. And we go on asking the Divine Mother for endless things, thinking that that is what will give us happiness. But in the end, isn't it the Divine Mother herself who will give us happiness? Because friends, if we are able to get her love, her blessings, and her grace, then that is all you need in this life. So can we all become ideal daughters and ideal sons of the Divine Mother? Can we all become ideal devotees of the Lord? Can we all learn from Sai Geetha's life and be able to apply that in our lives? Because Swami affirmed that she was not only a perfect daughter, but also a perfect devotee. All right, so let's put our puzzle pieces together now. So starting with G. G was for gift of God. So Sai Geetha was a gift of God, a gift from God, and a gift for God. She had E, everlasting love for the Divine Mother, and the Divine Mother showered her everlasting love on Sai Geetha. She had endless love, E for endless love for the Lord, pining and living only for Him. She was an example of T, the truth, the ultimate truth that we are all divine, friends. She had H, a heart-to-heart connection with the Lord 24/7 from every fiber of her being. And it's now time for us to have the A, the awareness to change and transform and to all become better daughters, better sons, better devotees of Swami. And so I'd like to leave you all with a question to think about as you go home today. And the question is this: are you ready to live as His song? Are you ready to live as His Geeta? And I want to close with a prayer to Swami that captures the essence of Sai Geetha, of becoming His song, living His teachings, living His messages, breathing and living only for Him, merging with Him, and being able to share that love and that bliss to every single person and every single being around us. I thank you all for this opportunity to speak today. And I thank Swami for being with us here today. Jai Sai Ram.
Thank you so much, Sister Vidya. Want to thank you so much for taking out the time for this talk and outlining us so beautifully through the letters of our dear Sai Geetha's name of how we can apply the messages from her life to ours.
Gajavadana, Gananatha, Gajavadana, Vinayaka.
Gajavadana, Gananatha, Gajavadana, Vinayaka.
Gajavadana, Gananatha, Gajavadana, Vinayaka. सुधा मधुरम मधुरम आनंदम।
साई राम साई सुगौरेशा
गायेगी सदा सुगौरेशा
गायेगी सदा सुगौरेशा
गायेगी सदा
साई राम साई
मुकुंद माधव मुरली मनोहर गोवर्धन गिरिधारी मुकुंद माधव मुरली मनोहर गोवर्धन गिरिधारी गोपी पीतांबरधारी गोपी पूजित मास चोरा पीतांबरधारी मुकुंद माधव मुरली मनोहर गोवर्धन गिरिधारी गीता बोधक साई सुंदर गीता बोधक साई सुंदर वंदित हृदय विहारी वंदित हृदय विहारी साई वंदित हृदय विहारी मुकुंद माधव मुरली मनोहर गोवर्धन गिरिधारी गोपी पूजित मानस चोरा पीतांबरधारी हरि हरि मुकुंद माधव मुरली मनोहर गोवर्धन गिरिधारी वंदित हृदय विहारी वंदित हृदय विहारी साई वंदित हृदय विहारी मुकुंद माधव मुरली मनोहर गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
Narayana Hari Narayana Narayana Sai Narayana Narayana Sai Narayana Narayana Hari Nama Bhajore Narayana Veda Parayana
Anandame Sai Namame Anandame Sai Namame Bhagutame Sai Geetame Madhurame Sai Geetame Akandame Jyotirmayame Akandame Jyotirmayame Sundarame Sai Rupame Sundarame Sai Rupame Anandame Sai Namame Anandame Sai Namame Madhurame Sai Rupame Madhurame Sai Rupame Akandame Jyotirmayame Akandame Jyotirmayame Sundarame Sai Namame Sundarame Sai Namame Anandame Sai Namame Anandame Sai Namame Madhurame Sai Geetame Madhurame Sai Geetame Akandame Jyotirmayame Akandame Jyotirmayame Sundarame Sai Rupame Sundarame Sai Rupame Sundarame Sai Rupame Sundarame Sai Rupame Anandame Sai Namame Anandame Sai Namame Madhurame Sai Geetame Madhurame Sai Geetame Akandame Jyotirmayame Akandame Jyotirmayame Sundarame Sai Rupame Sundarame Sai Rupame Anandame Sai Namame Adbhutame Sai Geetame
Om Jai Jagadish Hare Swami Sathya Sai Hare Bhakta Jana Samrakshaka Bhakta Jana Samrakshaka Kalki Maheshwara Om Jai Jagadish Hare Shashivardhana Shridhara Sarva Pranapati Swami Sarva Pranapati Ashita Kalpana Geeta Ashita Kalpana Geeta Apanta सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति
जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय।
కనుకనే సాయి భక్తులు అయినటువంటి వారు
Sai devotees
స్వార్థాన్ని కొంతవరకు త్యజించి
should sacrifice the self
పరార్థాన్ని వరించి
and they should be after
ప్రేమతత్వంలో జీవితాన్ని గడపండి.
and they should serve everybody and live
పరదూషణ
their life in
మానండి,
love.
పరదూషణ మానండి,
And do not criticize anybody
హింసని మానండి.
and give up all that
నీకు ద్వేష
accusation
అయినటువంటి వాడు కూడా నువ్వు చూచిన తక్షణమే నమస్కారం చెప్పండి.
and you offer your salutation and respect to everybody.
మనలో ఎంత ద్వేషం ఉంటుంటాదో అంత మనం కృంగిపోతాం.
So long there is hatred in you, you will ruin yourself.
ద్వేషం చాలా చెడ్డది.
Hatred is very bad.
ఈ ద్వేషానికి మనం ఏమాత్రం కూడా గురి కాకూడదు.
You should not have the feelings of malice.
ప్రేమను పెంచుకోండి.
Develop
ప్రతి
love.
వ్యక్తిని కూడా నువ్వు ప్రేమించండి.
Love everyone.
బీదలు ఉంటుంటారు,
They are poor people.
అలాంటి వాళ్ళకి మన చేతనైనంత కించిత్తైన సహాయం చేయండి.
We should help them to the extent possible.
అది హెల్ప్ ఎవర్ హర్ట్ నెవర్.
Help ever, hurt
పరోపకార
never.
పుణ్యాయ పాపాయ పరపీడనం అని వ్యాసుల వారు ఈ యొక్క భగవద్గీత లోపల చెప్తూ వచ్చారు.
That's what is said by Vyasa himself. Help ever, hurt never.
ఏటిది?
What is that?
భారతీయ సంస్కృతి యందు ప్రధానమైనటువంటి ఘట్టము.
That is the main principle according to Bharatiya culture.
పరోపకార పుణ్యాయ పాపాయ పరపీడనం.
It is a merit if you help others. It is a sin if you
ఎవరినో
harm others.
పీడిస్తున్నావు అనుకోవద్దు. నీవు పరులు పీడించినప్పుడు నిన్ను నీవు పీడించుకోవటమే.
If you harm others, you are harming yourself.
పరులకు మనం ఎంత సహాయం చేస్తామో అంత పదింతలు మనకు సహాయం అవుతుంది.
The more you help, you will receive help tenfold.
పరులకు మనం ఎంత కీడు చేస్తామో అంత పదింతలు నీకు కీడు కలుగుతుంది.
If you harm others, you will be put to harm 10 times more.
ఈ దృష్ట్యాన్ని మనం మనసులో ఉంచుకోవాలి.
This we should always hold on in
కనుక
view.
నేటి నుంచి అందరూ ప్రేమ స్వరూపులైపోయి,
From this day we should be
ప్రేమమయులైపోయి,
personified of love.
ప్రేమ హృదయులైపోయి
We should be full of love in our hearts.
ఈ ప్రేమ చేతని పవిత్రమైన కార్యంలో ప్రారంభించండి.
And with this love, let us undertake all sacred activity.
परमं पवित्रं बाबा विभूतिं परमं विचित्रं लीला विभूतिं परमार्थ इष्टार्थ मोक्षप्रदाय बाबा विभूतिं इदमाश्रयामि लीला विभूतिं इदमाश्रयामि synchronous miraculous Baba's creation flowing from
97 years of love on earth. 97 years of infinite inspiration. 97 years of love shower. 97 years of pure love. Pure love.